There is a war happening every day, not out there, not in boardrooms or battlefields, but in the 6 inches of space between your ears. In silence and in shadows it wages. No one else hears it. No one else sees it. But it shapes everything. The thoughts you allow to live are either building the armor that lets you walk through fire, or forging the chains that keep you crawling in the dark. Most people never realize the truth. That the loudest prison isn't the world outside. It's the one they've built with their own beliefs, their own self-talk, their own fear. A man becomes what he thinks about most. That was the eternal message. Not just from Hill, but from every giant of history who ever rose from nothing, from the silence of solitude to the roar of significance. Carnegie didn't start with steel, he started with a thought. Edison didn't light the world with wires, he lit it with obsession. Lincoln didn't free a nation by power, he freed it with unshakable purpose rooted in the furnace of his mind. So let me ask you, what are your thoughts made of? Steel or sand? Are they weapons or wounds? Do they chain you to what you were, or armor you for who you must become? You see, every success story ever told began the same way, with an invisible moment. A silent decision, a quiet defiance that no one else saw, a thought, and that thought, once believed, once fed, once multiplied, became the seed of power. It is never money, it is never status, it is always the mind. That is the kingdom, that is the battlefield, that is the throne. You are not broke because of the world. You are not stuck because of circumstance. You are not defeated because of others. You are where you are, because of the narrative playing on loop in your head. And the terrifying thing is that narrative was installed without your permission, by a world that doesn't want you to think for yourself, by teachers who stopped dreaming, by parents who feared too much, by a society that worships comfort and labels struggle as failure. But here's the truth they never told you: struggle is sacred. Discomfort is the chisel of transformation. And pain, real pain, is the crucible where warriors are forged. Your thoughts are not passive passengers, they are active architects. Every single one is a brick, and they're building something, a fortress, or a cage. And if you don't choose what you believe on purpose, your environment will do it for you, and it will always choose mediocrity, always choose fear, always choose smallness. The masses obey their thoughts. But the greats, the ones who rise, command them. They rewire, they rebuild. They uproot the weeds and replace them with declarations, not wishes, decisions. I will, I must, I already am, not someday, but now, because the subconscious mind does not argue, it obeys. It takes whatever you feed it and turns it into habit, and habit becomes behavior. Behavior becomes identity, and identity becomes destiny. Henry Ford once said, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. But let's go deeper. He didn't just believe in manufacturing machines, he believed in manufacturing belief. He knew that if he could hold the image of the impossible long enough, his mind would stretch the limits of reality to meet it. That's how every breakthrough happens. First in the invisible, first in the realm of thought. And only then in the physical. That's why most people fail, because they're living in someone else's mind, carrying thoughts that aren't theirs, wearing chains they never forged, whispering doubt they never questioned. It's time to wake up. It's time to burn those thoughts and build new ones on purpose, with fire, with vision, with discipline, because your thoughts are not trivial. They are sacred. They are the steering wheel of your future. Belief is not something you wait for. It's not something you stumble into. It's something you build. It's not handed to you. It's hammered into place through repetition, through defiance, through the willingness to look at what's real and still declare what's possible. Belief is the furnace where weak thoughts are melted and reformed into weapons. It's the dividing line between those who try and those who decide. You think the greats didn't doubt themselves. You think Edison didn't question whether the light would ever come. He failed over 10,000 times, 10,000 rejections from reality. But belief isn't about evidence. It's about commanding the evidence to follow your will. You don't wait until the world approves of your vision to start believing in it. You dare the world to keep up. Belief makes you dangerous. Belief makes you unpredictable. Belief is what made a man like Walt Disney walk into a swamp and see a kingdom. It's what made opera rise from abuse and silence to become a global force. They weren't born different, they believed differently, and here's the part no one wants to say out loud if your life is small. It's because your belief is, not your heart, not your effort, not your worth, just your belief. You were not born with limits, you were taught them, and anything that's taught can be untaught. But unteaching takes war. It takes looking at every thought that says I can't, and replacing it with watch me. It takes looking at every scar and saying, that's proof of strength, not weakness. It takes staring down the voice that says, who do you think you are? And answering with power, I am the one who decides. Because, here's the truth, most people never dare confront you are not your circumstances. You are not your history. You are not your failures. You are the thinker behind the thought. You are the author of the script, not the actor in someone else's play. And belief is the pen. A mind full of belief without direction is like a lion unleashed in a fog, powerful, fierce, but blind. Clarity is the lens that focuses all your strength into one burning point, and with that point you cut through chaos like a blade. Clarity is not a bonus. It's a weapon. Without it, you're just moving, doing more, hustling, grinding, but going nowhere, confusing motion for progress. And most people are exhausted not because they're doing too much, but because they're aiming at nothing. They're chasing ghosts, chasing someone else's dream, chasing validation instead of vision. Think of every titan who ever changed the world. They weren't confused. They were obsessed, laser, focused, unshakable in their direction. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't march for a vague hope, he marched for a dream so clear it echoed through time. Mandela didn't survive decades in a prison cell without clarity. He saw freedom while the bars were still cold around him. Clarity is internal vision, the ability to see what does not yet exist and to name it before the world understands it. So what are you aiming at? What are you willing to become? Not just what do you want, but who must you be to deserve it? Because here's the truth. Vague goals build vague lives, but clear purpose, that builds empires, that pulls you through every excuse, every obstacle, every valley of self-doubt. If your life feels like chaos, it's not because you're weak. It's because your mind is cluttered. It's because you've been saying yes to too much and aiming at too little. So draw the sword, cut away everything that doesn't serve. Name your target and move, because when clarity and belief combine, reality bends. Vision is the architect of destiny. It is not a daydream. It is not a hope. It is not a nice to have. Vision is the blueprint of your future life, drawn in the fire of imagination and reinforced with the steel of belief. Every skyscraper began as a sketch. Every revolution began as an idea. Every fortune began as a flash of clarity in the dark. So what do you see when your eyes are closed? What reality lives behind your eyelids that no one else can witness yet? That is your advantage. That is your gift, because the world may doubt it. Others may laugh. They may not understand, but vision doesn't need their understanding. It needs your devotion. Walt Disney stood in the middle of a swamp in Florida, surrounded by snakes and mosquitoes, and saw castles. Not because he was lucky, but because his mind was stronger than his circumstances. His vision was louder than the noise, and you have that same power, the same mental clay to mold the unseen into the real. But most people never use it because vision takes discipline, it takes courage, it takes enduring the season where nothing exists except the image in your mind and still acting like it's already here. Vision is not just about seeing where you're going. It's about feeling it, smelling it, walking in it before the ground even exists beneath your feet, because once the mind believes it's real, the world follows. Hill taught it, Carnegie lived it, Napoleon commanded it, and every successful man or woman you've ever heard of, they were first the authors of a reality only they could see, until they made the rest of the world see it too. So do not shrink your vision to match your surroundings. Expand your surroundings to match your vision, because what you picture, you eventually possess. Vision answers what, but purpose answers why. And without a why that burns, your vision will fade at the first sign of resistance. Purpose is what kept Viktor Frankl alive in Auschwitz. It's what made Helen Keller speak when the world told her she never would. It's what drives a man to rise before the sun, to keep going long after the applause is gone. Purpose isn't a strategy. It's a soul-level necessity. You don't need more motivation. You need a reason deeper than ego, a reason stronger than fear, a reason that turns your life into a mission. When you have that, when you stop chasing and start serving something larger than yourself, your life stops being about survival and starts being about significance. And here's the paradox. When you find that purpose, you become unbreakable, because pain no longer stops you. It feeds you. Setbacks no longer surprise you. They prepare you. Most people are empty not because they don't work hard, but because they've lost the reason why they started. And if you forget the reason, the journey becomes meaningless. The discipline becomes a burden. The action becomes noise. But when purpose fuels the process, you don't need discipline to show up, you burn to show up. You ache to advance, and no force on earth can hold back a man driven by something he cannot let die. So find that reason and let it devour your doubts. Let it outshine your fears. Let it guide your steps with fire. Because purpose true, sacred purpose is more powerful than failure, more powerful than rejection, more powerful than fear itself. Discipline is not punishment, it's proof. It's the evidence that you meant what you said when you set the vision. When you declared the goal, when you whispered to yourself in the dark, I will not live like this anymore. Discipline is what turns those whispers into weapons. And let's be clear, motivation will lie to you. Motivation is a mood. It comes and goes. But discipline is your decision to act, regardless of how you feel. It is the soldier of your future, marching even when your emotions desert you. Every great mind who ever built something that outlived them understood this. Edison didn't feel inspired 10,000 times he showed up 10,000 times. Carnegie didn't wait for a good mood to build steel, he forged forward when others quit. Kobe Bryant was in the gym at 4 a.m., not because he had to, but because he couldn't not be there, because greatness was not a dream, it was a demand. Discipline is the silent killer of doubt. When you are disciplined, fear becomes irrelevant. Because action, repeated with precision, rewires belief, and belief, reinforced by behavior, becomes unstoppable. People wait to feel ready, they wait to feel confident, they wait to feel worthy, and that's why they stay stuck. But the disciplined don't wait, they act. They don't chase motivation, they become the kind of person who moves no matter what. And over time, they don't just build habits, they build identity, and identity is everything. Because once you believe you are the kind of person who doesn't quit, who doesn't negotiate with excuses, who doesn't surrender when it hurts, you begin to live differently. You start to move like someone who's already earned it. You start to think like someone who refuses to lose, not because they're arrogant, but because they know what it costs to stay average. They know the price of their future, and they're willing to pay it daily. Thoughts are the seed, belief is the soil, vision is the blueprint, purpose is the engine, discipline is the structure, but action, relentless, obsessive, consistent action is the hammer that brings it all to life. The universe does not respond to intention, It responds to motion, relentless motion, ruthless consistency, unapologetic execution, and every man or woman who has ever dragged the impossible into existence knew this truth. You don't wait for opportunities, you create them. You move, you build, you fall and rise and move again. You knock on the door, and when it doesn't open, you kick it off its hinges. That's what every pioneer did, every disruptor, every leader who refused to bow to the limits of their time. Action is what separates the dreamers from the doers, the someday talkers from the right now builders. Most people read books and clap for speeches and nod their heads to motivation, but they never move. And that's why the few are wealthy, fulfilled, dangerous, and the masses are still waiting. You don't need more time. You don't need better conditions. You need a decision. You need to look your fear in the eye and move through it. Not around it, through it, because action, real action, builds proof, and proof builds confidence, and confidence builds momentum, and momentum turns into mastery. And once you have that, once you've tasted what it's like to move when others hesitate, you never go back. You don't ask for permission. You take the hill. You don't watch others live the life you wanted. You build it, one relentless action at a time. The strongest steel is forged in fire, but it's not brittle. It bends, it adapts, because survival is not about rigidity, it's about resilience with intelligence. Life will not honor your plans, it will test them, it will throw chaos, betrayal, delays, and detours. And if you're too stubborn to adjust, you'll snap under the pressure. But if you're wise, if you're forged with vision and purpose, you'll bend, you'll evolve. You'll learn how to pivot without losing your path. Because adaptability isn't weakness, it's flexible power. It's what lets the eagle ride storms instead of hiding from them. It's what lets the oak tree sway in the wind without being uprooted. Thomas Edison adapted. His lab burned to the ground. He didn't quit. He didn't wallow. He rebuilt better, faster, wiser. His thoughts were not his prison, they were his wings, because he didn't just expect success, he expected setbacks. He prepared for them. You must be the same. You must build a mind that is fluid in adversity and firm in purpose. Adaptability is not changing your dream, it's changing your strategy when life punches back. It's refusing to be thrown off course by the unexpected. Those who are adaptable are unshakable. They never stay down long, because their identity isn't built on a single outcome. It's built on an unbreakable mission. And so, when life says no, they whisper back, then I'll find another way. Don't fear the pivot. Fear staying stuck in a broken method. Don't fear the unexpected. Fear being too afraid to adjust. Because your future will demand evolution. It will demand that you kill your comfort, outgrow your old mindset, and step into something bolder, sharper, more alive. You are not measured by how high you climb when the sun is shining. You are measured by how many times you rise when the storm knocks you flat. Resilience is the roar after the fall, the refusal to die quietly, the sacred fire that says, this will not be the end of me. And make no mistake, you will be hit. You will be broken, you will question everything, your dreams will be laughed at, your sacrifices will be misunderstood, your loneliness will feel unbearable, and in those moments, most people quit. But not you, because you were built to come back stronger. You were not made to crumble, you were made to rise. And the greatest power on this earth belongs to the one who refuses to stay down, who takes pain not as punishment, but as training. Who sees setbacks not as signs to stop, but as confirmation that they're in the arena, fighting for something real. Abraham Lincoln lost more elections than he won until he won the only one that mattered. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison and walked out stronger, not bitter. Why? Because their thoughts were not chains, they were armor. They had trained their minds to serve their purpose, not their pain. You must do the same. When life breaks you, rebuild with fire. When you are knocked down, rise like thunder. Let every failure chisel you into something immortal, because pain will visit everyone, but power is reserved for the ones who rise anyway. Resilience is not just endurance, it is transformation through adversity. It is becoming so strong that not even life's most brutal chapters can erase your destiny. So bleed if you must, cry if you must. But don't you dare stay down. The world may throw everything at you, but it cannot stop a soul that has decided, I will finish what I came here to do. There is no power in pride. There is no progress in pretending you know it all. The greatest minds, the true giants, remained students long after the world called them masters, because the real ones know. You rise by learning. You sharpen by humbling yourself. You expand by submitting to growth. You think Carnegie stopped learning after the steel came. You think Jobs stopped studying after Apple took off. No. They fed their minds like warriors sharpened swords daily, deliberately, with respect for the battle they were in. Because life is war, and the one with the sharpest mind wins. Learning is not school. It's not passive. It's not waiting for a teacher. It is an act of war against mediocrity, every book, every mistake, every late night of reflection, every humbling loss, all of it fuel, all of it bricks in the palace of mastery. And mastery isn't about talent, it's about obsession. It's about picking one mountain, swearing loyalty to the climb, and vowing never to stop, not until the summit bows to your discipline. But here's what separates the elite. They don't just consume information. They apply it, they live it, they bleed it, because knowledge without action is vanity. Wisdom without execution is wasted fire. So study, read, watch, ask, but above all act. Learn from failure faster than anyone else. Learn from success even more, and when the world thinks you've arrived. Go back to class, because the ones who dominate life are the ones who never stop evolving, never stop adapting, never stop refining the weapon of their mind. Everything begins and ends in the mind, your thoughts. The ones you allow, the ones you nurture, the ones you fight for, they are the sculptors of your identity, the architects of your emotion, the engineers of your future. You can think small and live small, or you can train your mind to expand and watch your world obey. You can let your thoughts become the chains that keep you kneeling before mediocrity, or the armor that lets you rise through hell with fire in your chest. The voice in your head is not your enemy, but it must be tamed, it must be led. It must be reprogrammed with truth, not comfort, with purpose, not fear. This world was not built by the logical. It was built by the bold, by men and women who saw things that didn't exist and refused to stop until they did, who trained their thoughts to obey the vision, who mastered their inner world so completely that the outer world had no choice but to surrender. And now that power is in you, don't just think, command, don't just dream, build, don't just believe, become. You are the creator of your fate. The fire of your mind is either your freedom or your prison. So choose to think with strength, to see with vision, to act with relentless devotion, and let your thoughts become your armor, not your chains, because the world bows only to the one who has first conquered himself.